I had a request from legislators yesterday while I was at the Capitol that this would be helpful for the providers that cannot get on the call, and I agree with that. So we'll be posting it to the Division of Child Care's website. That way, for folks that can't be on the whole time or cannot get on the call, they'll have access to the same information that all of you are getting. I'm really delighted this morning. We have a special guest who's going to kick us off, really. Tim Cain, who works at the Arkansas Department of Education. Tim and his team have worked on a grant for testing water for lead. And Tim has approached early childhood about starting, since schools are out right now, and there's a lot of uncertainty about how school will look in the fall. And we have so many programs that are open. So Tim Cain, I know you're on the call. I'd love for Tim to share his grant and what it will do. I do want to let you guys know that if you don't know what happens to children's development if they do have an overexposure to lead, you really should look into that. There's a lot of great research about how it impacts children's development. It's a real major health and safety issue. I don't think we have big problems here in Arkansas, but if we identify problems, then we want to help programs try to address that, because we certainly don't want, and I know you don't want children to have that exposure and to risk their development. So Tim, I'm going to let you take it away. Tim, if you're on, you're muted. So can you?
There we go.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Yeah, I had to wait for you to unmute me. Tanya, thank you so much for having me. I just want to say good morning to everyone. In this age of Zoom, I'm getting used to this, but this is by far the biggest Zoom call I've ever been on. And I do want to thank Tanya and her team for inviting me on. I just want to talk to you a little bit about the grant that we received to do lead testing. And as she said, we're going to try to focus on where you are right now, because the schools are so focused right now on reopening plans and other things having to do with COVID. And I wanted to say a word about that as we're still in this pandemic. I know that the most important thing to you and your teams are to protect children. And that's exactly where we're at as well. And like she said, lead testing is not hopefully a big threat in Arkansas, but I think it's a good thing to be able to check. One thing I want to do before we get started, I want to share our website and show you how you could sign up for this free lead testing. So let's see. Tanya, is there a way you could let me share a screen, please? Oh, thanks, Ashley.
Let's see here, Tim. I'm gonna think what we need to do. Just give me 1 second.
No problem.
I actually don't see you on our list anymore. I don't see your username on our list.
It might be Murray Britton. That's the name of our account here, or is Murray, M-U-R-R-A-Y, Britton, B-R-I-T-T-O-N. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm not finding that either, Tim.
Huh.
You were showing up as Tim Cain, but now, okay, I found you. All right,
cool.
So 1 second, and I'm going to make you the host, and I think that will allow you to do that.
Awesome. Thank you, Ashley.
All right, let's try it now.
All right, cool deal. Okay. Can everyone see the screen? Can everyone see the lead testing opportunity website? Is that good? Okay, good deal. So what this is, this went live actually about an hour ago, and I will share the website address to Rhonda and Ashlyn, and they can get it out to all of you. But what we have is a great opportunity I want to tell you about. We received a grant from the EPA, and I say we, the Department of Ed working alongside the Department of Health, and now we're also working with DHS, with with Tanya and Ashlyn and their team. So I'm excited about this. She invited me to come on and share this opportunity with you. And as Tanya said, there's been a lot of evidence that shows exposure to significant levels of lead can have a lasting harmful impact on people, but this is especially true for small children, which is why on this grant, one of the main groups of people we wanted to target was the child care centers that you run. Because the evidence appears to say, and I think it's mounting evidence, that the younger children are, the more harmful effects they can have to significant levels of lead. So basically what we can offer is we have hired a contractor using this $420,000 grant over the next 2 years to do testing for your facility. And all you have to do to apply for that testing is get on this website and click on lead testing application. When you do that, you will see a little blurb here. Then you'll see questions directed to me if you have any. You click on next and you just fill this out. You'll see school and daycare. Now, some of these questions you'll see, like name of district, that's obviously talking about a school district, and that won't apply to you. So you just put NA there. So you go in, and I believe it's 3 or 4 pages, and then you will submit this. And this is set up as a Google form. So we'll have all that information. And then what will happen is we will communicate with you, and actually we're going to do that through our website. So if you go back, we're going to go back here and show you the training that has been done. And there's 3 training videos. There's one for training, and that's how to set up a testing sampling plan. And there's one on how to collect the samples that will be sent for testing. And there's another one for taking action if lead levels are found that are above what is allowed, which is 15 parts per billion. So if it's below that 15 parts per billion, there's no action to be taken. So basically the way this will work, and just kind of real high level, is you will apply, and then you will be sent, you will go over the training here in these videos. And I'm going to direct everyone to these video trainings. And this was done by the Department of Health and Department of Education. I think you'll find this really helpful. It was done on Zoom, and it was recorded. So this is all based on what's called the 3 T's: training, testing, and taking action, that the EPA does on just about every grant. So we also have a work plan. If you want to read that, if you have time, it goes into more detail over what our plan is statewide. And certainly later, we want to go into the schools and do testing. But right now, we want to focus on child care centers and daycares. And so I really want to encourage y'all to get on there and apply. And what will happen is this contractor that does the testing will send bottles to your facility. And you will simply take the samples, and the training videos will show you how, and then you will mail those in. It won't cost you any money. Even the cost to ship the samples back to the lab is part of this grant. So the lab will run the tests. They will let you know the results. They will let us know the results. So we'll both have a record of it. And then you can communicate that to the parents. And I think a real opportunity for y'all here is to be able to show parents, not only are we protecting your children by minimizing the infection of COVID, we're also trying to look out for their health in lead. So this could be a great opportunity for you to be able to use and be able to let your parents know that, hey, we're going the extra mile for our kids. And the best part is it doesn't cost you any money. It just costs some time. So that's pretty much it. We tried to keep it really simple. And I just, again, want to encourage y'all to go on and apply. If you have any questions, you can email me at tim.cain@arkansas.gov. I'll be glad to follow up with you. And I just kind of want to open up. Are there any questions out there about the lead testing? I haven't checked see if there's any questions on are there any questions on the chat? Anybody sees? Oh, wait, here we go. Okay, does anyone have any questions at all? Any concerns at all? Are there funds for lead abatement if necessary? That's a great question, Carol. Unfortunately, at this time, there isn't. We tried to apply for one and it just didn't work out. I'm also working with AAEA, which is Mike Hernandez. Dr. Hernandez actually just took over there last week, and he worked here at the department head for years. And so there's some potential there in the next session to get some. One thing I will say though, one thing I will say is that it will, most of the abatements that we've seen, and we studied other states, both AAEA, which is the Educators Association, and myself reached out to other colleagues around the country that had a similar testing program and also provided funds for abatement. In other words, that's that taking action part of the 3 T's. And in almost all cases, the cost was pretty minimal. Now, I will say there were some cases where there had to be piping removed. And as you can imagine, that's quite expensive. Let's see, is this for in-home also or only centers? Oh, that's a good question. What's the difference between those? Are they still considered a child care center if they're in-home? Does anybody, is that considered the same? Okay, no. Oh, can I unmute you? Sorry. I didn't mean to. How do I unmute people? Let's see. Sorry about that. I'm not good at this Zoom. Let's see, early childhood. There we go. There we go.
Hello. Okay, good job.
Sorry.
That's okay. Once you become the host, then you have the power for that.
Well, I didn't mean to.
Yes, there is a difference between our child care family homes and our child care centers. And
Okay.
so I would think for this opportunity, though, we would want to do all facilities. We would recommend to you all facilities.
Okay.
So would that be appropriate for you guys over at the Department of Ed? Would that be okay with you?
Absolutely. We don't
Yes.
see it as a problem. I just want to make sure it was okay.
Yes.
There's another question from Caroline. Carolyn Winston. Is testing mandatory? And the answer to that is no, it's voluntary.
Right.
Yeah.
We would encourage you all to do it. It'll at least give you the information and you'll know. And I believe what I learned from Tim, and Tim, if I'm wrong, correct me, but when we were meeting earlier, the percentage for lead would be small actually for Arkansas. Is that correct?
That's what I've heard based on what the Department of Health has said. They've done a similar pilot in the past, and that's what they found. Very, very low percentage of problems.
Tim, can you grab the website that you showed us, the landing page, and post it in the chat box for everyone?
That's a great idea. There we go. See, I'm figuring this out a little bit at a
Doing
time.
a good job.
So if you can go to that and sign up, and you'll be communicated with, and if you have any questions, just reach out to me. We'd love to help. Right. Should your building be a certain age to be tested? Were materials used at a certain time prior to? That's a great question. A very good question. We've got enough money in the grant to pretty much test anybody, but the priority wise, what they have recommended is testing buildings that were built before 1986. And that's because, and you're right, because the material used at that time contained lead prior to 1986. And there was a federal law passed that banned the use of that and phased it out over time. So if your building was built, say, in 1967, which is the year I was born, you know, then you probably need to test. But even if your building's only 20 years old, it doesn't hurt to test. And I don't, until we get to the point where the money is, if we find ourselves getting a little low or we're forecasting out, we'll keep a close eye on it. And we start seeing that money might be an issue, then we can start prioritizing. But at this point, I think we should open up to everyone. But I would recommend, if your building was built before 1986, it'd be a good idea to do it. That's right. Is there anything else? Any other questions or concerns? Let's see. If the test shows lead, but a facility cannot afford corrective measures, what happens? That's a very good question. What will happen is, my understanding is it won't just be one test. Let's say that you test at 18 parts per billion. So one of your faucets, for some reason, was 18 parts per billion. Well, the first action taken is not to go in and start making you spend money. The next thing you want to do, which will be recommended, the first action is to test it again. And just to make sure, because sometimes, as you know, in life, in any process we do, there's always error. And so we want to make sure there's a real problem before we do it. And I would probably recommend testing it a couple of times. And if you come back and it's quite a bit lower than 15 parts per billion, then we would say, hey, that's not an issue. But let's say, worst case, that it is an issue. There are other options. If you have more than one faucet, let's say, one of the corrective measures could be just shutting it down. And then some of the other corrective measures may be just a little bit of piping. I think it's going to be very rare to see the problem be in the piping on the outside, which is very expensive. It's mostly going to be where that water fountain is or that faucet is. But one option is to shut it down and then use another faucet. And because this is only for drinking water. We're not talking about for other uses of water. So there are other actions you can take besides having to spend money. But that's a good question. And that's one of the weaknesses we have, I'll be honest. Let's see, post a link in the announcement on the Facebook page. Okay, yeah, I did that earlier up here. This is where the link to the website is. We don't have it on our Facebook page yet. I'm hoping that we'll start, this is the first step of marketing on that. Tim, I work at a school. Do you recommend testing? Yes, that's a good question. Now, the priority on the schools will be the elementary schools first. But right now, Diane, because of everything that the superintendents and the principals and the teachers are having to deal with, y'all are having to deal with right now on COVID-19 and reopening, we're just trying to wait a little bit. What we'd like to do is maybe in October, we could try to start reaching out to the schools. Cooking water is not an issue. Well, I would say that that probably would be an issue, since it's to cook food that will go into kids' mouths. But what I was referring to is more just hand washing stations and showers and things like that. What about a water filter? Will that help? Absolutely. And that could be one of the actions that you take. So when we start saying taking actions, I think it's going to be very rare, based on the numbers I've seen, that it's going to cost you, $2,000 to fix. I think a lot of these things can probably be fixed with filters and other small changes. Do the test results include prescribed corrective measures? No, the test results really are what they are, but depending on how far out they are, and again, there will be follow-up tests to both confirm if that was true, and then also there will be tests to determine where the problem is. Is it at the source where you're getting your water, or is worst case, is it further upstream where the pipes are? So there will be more testing that goes into it, but there's not pre-described corrective measures. There will just be a choice. It could be replacing a water filter, like Jeannie said. It could be, replacing some fittings. It could be shutting it down and not using it if you have other sources of water that you can use. It could be using bottled water. So there's several options. I don't know that I would say it's prescribed, but there are options, certainly. All right. Well, thanks for all your questions. I appreciate your interest, and I do want to say I appreciate Tanya and I appreciate Ashlyn, and thank you so much for your time. Let's see. I need to give y'all control back. Sorry. All right. Ashlyn, I just gave you control back.
All right, Tim, thank you so much. Yes, I believe so. Thank you so much for that information and for sharing that with our group online today. And if you guys have any questions, Tim gave you his information there and also the link that you can go to, and they are more than willing to help you out in answering anything that you might be wondering still about the lead testing. All right, Tanya's going to talk to us for a few minutes and give us some updates.
Okay, so I know on the pandemic procedures that we have, there is one change on those, just an update. I think previously it had fever-free for 24 hours, which is consistent with our licensing regulations. The Department of Health has added 48 hours. So I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that. It's a slight change, but it's an important change. Specifically with COVID, so 48 hour fever-free before a child can return to the facility. So just a little bit of a difference. I'm going to talk for a few minutes about criminal background checks. As most of you know, we have made some significant changes that are going into play. So I'm just going to take you back for a moment. During the legislative session, there was some discussion about, right at the end of the session, about legislation to mandate an automated system. And because it was late in the session, the legislator worked with our secretary, who made a commitment, because we were actually already going to do an automated system. We were working on it, but to not have a piece of legislation, they signed, a letter of agreement that we would be committed and also put a timeline into place. It really was consistent with the timeline that we had at the time. I've heard from many of you that you do not get your background checks back in a timely manner. For those of you who work with the Department of Ed and have used their automated system, you're pretty familiar with how that works. And we are very excited about being able to offer that to early childhood. So I understand as you go into something new that it is a change, a significant change for us. And I want to address a couple of things about that. So it isn't a choice for us. This was either going to be a legislatively mandated thing, but we made an agreement to do this with that legislator because we were already working on it. There was no reason to have a mandate, because we were already in the process of it. So we are moving forward with it. There is a cost to doing automation, not a cost that DHS incurred, but the INA system, the portal that you have to access, the portal that the Department of Ed accesses, that everyone who uses this for automated, those folks in the INA have a charge of $150. We don't have anything to do with that charge. It is a charge that they set. It's my understanding, we didn't know anything about that charge until we got into this process and were told. It's my understanding that that amount has changed in the last few months too. It wasn't that amount when we first started the conversation, but it is an amount that if you are going to have a background check done in the automated system, that you will incur. So if you do not have to do background checks, if you don't anticipate any background checks at your facility, you do not have to sign up for that and have that cost incurred. So I just want to make sure folks know that it's an annual cost. It's a one-time annual cost, but it's for an INA portal. It's really to access the way in which you submit a background check in an automated fashion. So I want to make sure everyone understands that. It is a one-time annual. That means that every year you will have to pay that fee if you're going to do background checks. If you do not anticipate, if you're a small center and you only have one staff and your staff doesn't change and you are not due to do a background check, then you won't incur it annually. You will incur it at the time frame in which you need to run a background check. So I see a question, will we do both the division of, or the elementary and secondary ed? Yes, because not to get too technical, but for folks that are with the Department of Ed, you all have a law at the Department of Ed that has a different, it's called an ORI number for FBI and criminal background checks than the Division of Child Care. I am floating the idea of legislation, but I will tell you, I'm already getting a lot of kickback that it's really difficult to have one piece of legislation for this. So I'm committed to trying to do that, guys, so that we can have, you know, or accept or not have to be doing this duplicate, but, you know, I'm doing my best here. And I don't know how that's going to go legislatively. It may not even make it out to be a legislative item, or maybe it will. But for those of you who are in dual systems, that is on my legislative priorities. It's one of the items that I've asked. So can your district pay, let me just go. So the background checks still have a fee. So you will, when you go into that portal, we do have some folks testing it, but when you go into that portal, you will pay for the FBI. The state police, just to be clear, we will pay for. So you will not have to incur that cost. The division will still continue to pay for that for programs. This does not apply for child maltreatment, which is still a paper process. That has not in our division, but in the agency. So you will still submit, and we're working with that division to have more of an online automated, but there's still some paper processing involved with child maltreatment, not criminal background checks, which will all be automated. The time frame that we have, we are going live. It's live now. So for programs who want to test and try the automated system, if you have to do a background check, not because you just want to, don't do it because you'll incur that cost. But if you have a background check that needs to be done and you want to try this new, I'm going to get my results very quickly, please feel free to go ahead and do that. It's out there live now. And I'll let Ashlyn talk about where you can access. We have put a time frame so that we have from now through October 1 to implement. But October 1 is when we will no longer accept hard copies. So I just want to make sure folks know that. We understand there may be things that we have discovered during this pandemic that will require us to do something, and we certainly will be prepared to do that. But in general, the expectation is by October 1, we will go live for everyone. I think you guys will like it much better because of the results and how quickly you're going to be able to get them and how easy it is. You'll be entering your own data. You will be in there putting your staff in, and it's just going to be much easier than submitting all that paper and getting those fingerprint cards. But it is a new process, and it's very different than what you all have been doing. So I know the folks that are with schools understand because they're doing it, but this will be very different for our child care and early childhood folks. Your district can pay that fee. Your preschool can pay that fee. You can use funding that we've given you through the child care block grant that you already get. You could even use your supplies that we're giving you through COVID. So if you're not using all of that funding that we've been passing through for cleaning supplies, because the federal allowance for those funds was anything that would help keep you open, and child maltreatment and background checks are required. So if you want to pay that $150 fee for that one cost out of the cleaning supply funding that we've sent you, not the deep cleaning because that's a reimbursable, but just the regular cleaning supplies and maintenance, you're welcome to use that. But your district and or your program can pay for that. if an agency or association wants to pick up that fee, we'll just need to probably work with you all to make sure that technologically you all are set up and everybody has access. I'm not the tech person here, but I think that can be done, Tammy Rowland. We'll just need to work with the organization to make sure that the programs that you're paying for have access to that. And I feel like that can be done. You can run as many employees as you have for the $150 fee. It can be 10, 1, 200, 1,000. As many employees for that year, for that period of time that you're paying for, every employee that needs a background check is covered under that $150 fee. So if you're a program that has more than one site, my understanding is you would pay one time. It's not like your license. You're an organization, so you're getting background checks on all of your employees. So you're not going to have to pay $150 at each of your sites. It's just it's for your organization. The child maltreatment checks will be more automated, Leslie, but they will not be part of the criminal background checks because that is accessing criminal records. And it's very different than the child maltreatment. That is a state system that's maintained, not an FBI and state criminal. You may use the paper through October 1. If you do not want to go to the automation now and you have to do a background check, you may use it through October 1, but come October 1, all programs will need to be using the automated system. We will no longer take paper unless there is some sort of catastrophic event that won't allow people to do the online. How often do you conduct a background check on employees? That's in the licensing regs. I believe it's every 5 years. I don't have it in front of me, but Ashlyn is confirming it is every 5 years. Tiffany, I'm going to let Ashlyn, we can probably post. You can go to the division's website for the information, but we can post in the chat box, I think, the link to go ahead and start using it if you are interested in using it. Yeah, so Deb, to answer your question, the $150 will be for your child care early childhood program to be able to do background checks for your staff who are working in those programs. And someone has posted that in the chat box, so thank you, Becky. You can still do the mail through October 1, but remember, they're not doing fingerprint cards right now. I mean, we're still in a little bit of a transition with COVID. So if you do the live scan, you get everything taken care of now. So just so that you know that, but you will not have to start it until October 1. Same for all agencies. The requirement will be the same, regardless of for-profit, nonprofit status. There are fees attached that are different for child maltreatment, I think, for nonprofits, but that remains the same. Jennifer, the fingerprint scanners that the district has purchased are not, I'm not aware that they're programmed to use the ORIs that our division has. Those are placed in DHS offices, and you'll have one in your county, in your community. So that is part of the link that you'll get. It will show you how to schedule those. Unfortunately, those fingerprint scanners have not been programmed with our ORI for the Division of Child Care to do the criminal background checks. A question, if they've already submitted FBI checks, Ashlyn, without fingerprint cards, do they need to schedule appointments to get the fingerprints? That is after, that will be after we hear from the state police that they are open again for regular business. So you do not have to do that, Courtney. If if you've already done that, you're good until you're in this grandfathering period and you're under the old process. So until we get word from state police that they've lifted for COVID purposes, the ability to get fingerprint cards done, you guys will just continue as usual unless you have a new person that needs to get, you know, a criminal background check done.
Unless their local law enforcement is doing fingerprints now.
Or unless your local law enforcement is doing fingerprints, and we don't know that. So you may know more about that. I know some of you have been able to continue to do that, but we know a lot of places stop doing fingerprint cards. Background checks, fingerprints have to be done every 5 years. Maltreatment every 2 years. The cleaning fee funding. Charity, if your organization is set up as a vendor for the state, and we had a few programs that were not, and we've been working tirelessly to help everyone get set up, you possibly have already received funding, but if you will, we just need to reach out to you separately. It would have been deposited in your account. And I'm talking about the cleaning and maintenance, not the deep cleaning if you have a positive COVID case. If you have a positive COVID case, you submit your invoices for that, for your deep cleaning. We confirm with the Department of Health and with our licensing staff that there has been a case. We don't have to know the names of children or staff, but we do have data on whether or not there's actually been a case. And then we pay for those. But for the cleaning, we've been processing those cleaning fee maintenance funds for several months now. So if you're open, if your program is closed, if you're a school district that's not open and your license program is not open, we will work with you as you notify your licensing staff that you are reopening your program, and those funds will start coming to your school district. Again, you have to be set up as a state vendor. So if you're not aware of that, please call your licensing specialist or your family support specialist, and we'll connect you with our staff to do that. Is the annual fee, and I'm guessing you're talking about the $150 to access the INA system, January through December or date to date?
I think it's calendar year. That
Let
information
us-
should be on there.
Okay.
When they sign on.
It should be on when you sign up for it, Ashlyn is saying, but we will verify that. I'm just going through the questions, gang, sorry. No, you will not need to purchase a scanner. As you look at the details of the process, the scanners the agency has purchased and placed them at DHS offices, and I believe there's about 50 or 60 around the state and almost in most of the county offices. Some areas we have more than one. So, but those scanners are available, and you will schedule. There's a scheduling app. It's in the process. So when you click on that link and start working in this new process, it will give you the information. Yes, there is a list on that link of the DHS offices that have the live scan. Question about information about current COVID cases. Yes, Amanda. We have, and Kelly or somebody may be on, we have roughly 30, about 3 dozen cases that have been identified as children connected in child care facilities, and that's going from March through today's date. So that's pretty remarkable, because you all have the capacity to serve about 120,000 children right now, and we've only had about 3 dozen cases that have been confirmed positive cases. So you're doing amazing work out there, keeping things sanitized and hand washing and screening and all the things that you're trying to do to keep children safe. So for those of you who are reopening, we will work with you on processing the maintenance grants, just to be aware of that. Notify your licensing staff of your reopening date, and we will work with you on processing those payments. That's a great question. If you have an employee who's hired from another center and completed their criminal background checks, how would the hiring center access that information? I believe there's a period of time that we can use that, but I will, Takita, let me confirm with our licensing staff as we go into this new process. I don't think it'll be any different, but there is a limited window of when we can use that. So if Kelly or anybody from licensing can weigh in on that. Sarah, your question about the 9-to-1 ratio, that is not, that, please work with your licensing staff, as that has been very confusing and that is not accurate. It is not, the ratios have not changed. You all that are doing preschool just need to take your 20 children and divide them into smaller group sizes. But your licensing staff can work with you. I know that's been confusing and a lot of folks, and I know that the Department of Ed, sorry, and Susan may be on the call, but I know they're getting ready to issue guidance, and I think it will help clarify that. But that is not accurate information, so it shouldn't change the numbers that you're serving. Yes, Sherry, we'll post the email about deep cleaning. Jaisha, if you're on, if one of your team members can post that website or email address for the deep cleaning invoices. The maltreatment, you will use the link and fill out the registry request form that's listed on the website for maltreatment. If your facility does not accept vouchers, we will need to work with you for essential workers. We just need to work with your facility. So just to be clear, Colleen, DHS already pays for the state police, the state criminal background check. The FBI background check is a separate cost. I believe it's $22. If I'm wrong on that, somebody correct me. But the $13.25 for childcare and early childhood education, we pay for that. So they will bill us. So when you go in to use that new system, it'll say this charge does not apply or something. So for the $13.25, DHS will continue to pay for that. We'll be invoiced by state police for those costs. You do not have to resubmit employees for background checks if you have a current background check in place. So if you have received results of someone recently, they're good until, for 5 years. So a question about buses and picking up children after school. That is a great question. Just so you guys know, we are working on that and also working closely with the Department of Ed. As we know, if schools are going to open and use their bus routes and just load them up, it is not practical for us to have a rule for school-age children that looks very different. So we will probably be modifying that. We just have not done that yet. So I just, for all of you who are doing school-age care and after-school pickup, the plan is to be in alignment with what the Department of Ed, or try to be more consistent, because I know that's a challenge. So just want you to know that. Not for younger children, I'm not talking about birth to 5 or birth to 4, but for those children that are in public school, we will try to be aligned so that you will go back to your normal capacity for pickup when school starts. Now, if the Department of Ed says all children must wear a mask, then we'll have to follow that, guys. We want to be consistent and aligned with that. And they're still working on those plans. So that's why we haven't sent anything out or changed that yet. But yes, to that question, I do see us making an adjustment that will more be in alignment so that we're not doing things that are completely separate between schools and childcare. So for those of you that are in pre-K, please work with your licensing staff. We probably will work with Susan to do some training, as there still seems to be a great deal of confusion. I know I've worked with some folks personally, and I think people are understanding it, but there still seems to be confusion, and it's really hard on this call. And there's so many of you that are not just focused on pre-K, so I don't want to bog down everyone's time, because some people have infants and toddlers and school age. We will work with you. If you're struggling with this whole pre-K thing, but it seems to be more over on the ABC side. So Susan, if you're on the call, or if you're not, we'll work with Susan Underwood and make sure that we have training for you all. But I know Susan understands it and is going to be getting guidance out to ABC. Okay, so if a family travels to Florida for a vacation, will they have to wait 14 days or get tested before returning? No, ma'am. I mean, your program is your program. If you want to make that rule, that is not a state requirement. It's not a licensing requirement. There is nothing about travel currently that's a part of the questions through the Department of Health. So there's some questions about payments. For those of you, the payment amounts for cleaning is on our website. I just, you know, I just encourage you to go to the website. It's based on your license capacity and based on your level of quality. So please go to the Division of Child Care and Early Childhood Education's website for that information. If you have a question about your payments, please reach out to us. You can send it directly to me via email, and I'll connect you with the appropriate staff to work through that. You can look on, and I think that link is on our website. In fact, I know it is, to show you how to look for yourself if you're set up in our payment system, because I know it's a little bit complicated, but our staff have actually posted a link to show you how to do that. Kelly, thank you. If an employee leaves a facility and goes to work at another, their background check is valid if there's been no more than 90 days between employment. So for 90 days, Ms. Jackson, if hopefully that you're still on and you've gotten that. So I do want to, the last question that I see is about training hours. We're certainly sympathetic to the situation, but I do want to point out, I know we probably have a few of our contractors on the call, that most of our contractors have flipped very quickly to online training. So it's still available to you. You know, we expect, if we see somebody that's down an hour or two, we understand that. But in general, yes, we do expect. All of that's been flipped to online. So you should be able to access online training. If you're having trouble or difficulty with that, please reach out to me or to your licensing staff, and we'll get our contractors connected with you to make sure you have that. It's on the PDR website as well. But if you're having difficulty with that, let us know. And Sandra Withers, thank you. She has posted that healthychildcarearkansas.org has online training for free through the PDR. So again, I know that Donna Kirkwood's posted, there are many online training available. Our contractors, professional development TA folks have been so nimble about this. I'm just amazed, but there's tons of online training. So lots of opportunities. Great. So lots of training opportunities that people are posting. We've got about 11 minutes, guys. I know there may be a few more questions, and I'm going to hang out here as long as I can. I do want to let you guys know that as we go forward, we are asking, as you all probably saw from our last call to this call, we will start having guest speakers to sort of normalize our work, because we can't just stay in COVID mode all the time. We still have work to do, and I'm just trying to help regulate that a little bit. We'll certainly still answer questions. We're still going to be talking about COVID probably for a very long time, but we are asking guest speakers to come and share updates. So I will tell you, I'm real excited. I think at our next call, we're going to have the Teach scholarship folks who we're very excited to partner with at the Arkansas Early Childhood Association in Arkansas to help fund those scholarships. And they're going to be on to really walk us through that process and give us some updates after a year of implementation, which has been quite crazy because of COVID. A lot of things had to change on that, but they're going to be on to talk about that. I'm excited. So we're going to let them have the first probably 15 to 30 minutes or however long they need, but I'm really excited to bring them. And if there's some specific things that you want, we will continue to listen to you and try to bring that to you. But I just wanted you to be aware, we are going to start bringing guest speakers probably at every call, just to help bring some messages and information that might be helpful. I'm just going to go. I see a few more comments in. Are we expecting any changes to the mask requirements from the Department of Ed? Lauren Cates Fox, I have no idea. I'm not even going to try to answer. I can barely keep up with what's happening over here in my own division. The Department of Ed is working tirelessly, and school districts and school superintendents and administrators are working hard. And I know that they're trying to come up with the very best plan for keeping K-12 children safe. And so we all look forward. We will be working in concert just for school age children, because we don't want to be in complete, opposite sides of things. So just be aware, we will try to get things aligned for school age pickup, for example, and try to make that a little more in alignment. So for those who have questions about ECHRs, I know Donna's on, probably some other ACE State staff. We are working, and yes, we are working on a plan, and as soon as we have a little more detail, that may be a call that we'll have before school starts, maybe in August, to kind of walk through what that will look like for those of you who are working through the environmental rating scales. But yes, it will look different, as you can imagine, as we're in this incredible time. So for those of you who are taking essential worker applications, continue to make sure that your staff and or people in your community know. I mean, we have a lot of funding, and we've to date added about a little over 1,000 children that are essential. These are in addition to our normal low-income childcare vouchers, but that are essential workers. We've taken about 1,700 applications. So yes, if you have families who are eligible for essential workers, please have them submit, an application for that. We are doing those, I think the staff are keying those maybe 3 months at a time now, because we do have funding available. We were doing monthly at the beginning, but as we're rekeying those, we're adding additional time. The link for the call, as far as I know, is the same every week. It shouldn't be different, and I'm getting an affirmation from my staff. The mask reference definitely was in regard to school age. Just to be clear, we are not mandating masks for children in early childhood settings at all. The mask reference is, and we don't know yet what that will look like for K-12, but at this point, and if parents want to send their children in a mask, that's something a parent might, want to do. But we know from a health standpoint that children under 2 should not be wearing masks at all. And any children above the age of 2 to age 10 is really optional, but we are not mandating that. My reference to mask, wearing a face mask or cloth mask, was in regard to conversations with the Department of Ed about how they're going to reopen, and making sure that our guidelines for transportation for school age care is in alignment with what they're doing, because it would be kind of silly if they're going to load a school bus full of children and we tell you all that you can only go half. It seems kind of counter. So I just wanted you all to be aware. We are talking about that, and we will be getting you all that information. And we will try to make it in alignment. We don't want to be in completely opposite corners on that. Sarah, I'm not sure. Susan, if Susan's on today, and I haven't seen her, but if Susan's on, and she may be busy over at the Department of Ed today, but I'm sure she's planning on doing something, and we certainly can let her know that there seem to be some requests for maybe a Zoom meeting for ABC pre-K. These calls are bi-weekly now, so every 2 weeks. Thank you, Rita, for answering that. I didn't even see your response, but thank you. So yes, the funding for the essential worker vouchers, we had, I believe in that bucket, we have $41 million total, and we divided it between the cleaning and sanitation and the essential workers. So we have adequate funding, and we'll continue to be able to add families. So you do not have to worry about that. The staff are managing that, and our finance folks, to make sure that we have adequate money. So we are keying those for a little longer. So if you've noticed that, I see that some of you have noticed they're being keyed through September. We will let you know on this call. I don't anticipate that is not going to be available for at least a year. unless we just have an avalanche of people, like millions of, I'm talking hundreds of thousands. If it stays the way it is, it's pretty small numbers right now. And so as long as it's manageable, we will keep going as long as that funding is available. But if the funding starts to get smaller, then we'll start keying monthly again. But we will let you guys know that on this call, or you'll notice it when you see the voucher rekey. But right now we have adequate money there. So I just was reminded, I see a few more things, and I'm going to work through those right quick. But the next call is scheduled on the 21st, and we actually have some meetings scheduled. So we may need to make an adjustment, gang. We are committed to these meetings well beyond COVID. I just want you to know that. We may just have to move it back a week, and then we'll get back on track for every 2 weeks. But I just, I wanted y'all to be aware of that. I think several of us are going to have to be in a different meeting that's required. And so that may make us have to make a shift, but we will have it. It may just be the week after, and then we'll go to every 2 weeks again. So I apologize. There might be a week delay there, but so Joyce, to answer your question, yes, it looks like it'll probably be 3 weeks, maybe for the next call. But we'll post it on our website, so please pay attention there. If you have a question, shoot us an email and we'll let you know. But it will probably be, if we can't have it that way, I hate to go away from the Tuesday at 10 because people are used to it. So most likely we'd shift it to the next week at 10 and then get back on our normal schedule. Yes, I think I've answered those. Preschoolers do not have to wear a mask. That is up to parents. If your facility wants, I wouldn't encourage it. I don't think it's very practical, and it's certainly not required by the Department of Health. Yay, ERS classes or environmental rating scales, for those that don't know the acronym, are online. The parent fee, staff who are on the call from vouchers, I hate to answer that one without somebody confirming. The parent fee, the question is, has it been suspended? If you can post that in. The essential worker application is on the website. So you certainly can reach out to our licensing staff if you need help, but you can go right to the website. It's on the landing page. I sent it to the legislators yesterday. It's very easy to get to. So question about Better Beginnings. Donna, if you will work with Sherry and let her know. I think we are working on some plans for Better Beginnings and movement that will better help you all. That's not all totally worked out yet, but if someone will reach out to Sherry Gillespie and let her know at least tentatively what we're doing, then we will have a little more firm plan, I think, as we go forward. We're looking for something that will support you all in terms of coaching, and we think we found a great resource working with A-State. So, okay, Dawn, thank you. Dawn has put something in the chat box for those of you who have questions about essential workers and Better Beginnings. So this is a great question, and let me just share with you all. If you all have children that are school age, the voucher program currently, federally, does not allow us to pay for full-time vouchers if children are in school, whether virtual or in school. I mean, it makes sense. The Department of Ed is paying for school for children. We can pay if the school has to close because of a case. We could pay for that, but we're not allowed to pay for a voucher. I just want to make sure folks know that. If parents want to pay for childcare, they certainly can choose to, but the federal government does not give us authority to pay for a school ager for full-time care when school is in session. If they issue something, we will keep you guys updated about that. They have not issued anything at this point. I'm not aware of any change to that. So I just want to make sure you knew that. I can't answer questions about ABC. That's really at the Department of Ed. So please reach out to Susan. She will give you that information. The incentive payment is scheduled, I believe, through, I believe through August or September. There might not be a timeline on that, Ms. Jackson, but we are working on updating rates. And when we update the rates, the incentive payment will go away. But that probably will be later in the fall or you know, late summer, early fall. We will continue to do those incentive payments. So just they are in place for at least the next few months. Yeah, we are not planning to do virtual learning for early childhood. So just so folks know, there's nothing, we don't have funding that allows for us to pay for that here at the agency. The Department of Ed may have that, and they may do that for pre-K and other programs. I just want you all to know for the Division of Child Care, our funds aren't really designed for that. They're really designed for working families. So for us, that's really not something that we can do. So Leslie, I don't know if somebody from Tom's unit, if Rhonda Betzner is on regarding ServeSafe, can you please let Leslie Shaw know? I see lots of posts going in. And thank you, Brandy Ishman. Parent fees are currently suspended for vouchers. I thought they were, but I just didn't want to answer that without checking with staff. And I see lots of questions about training. Thanks to all of our contractors for posting those. And I think that's it, gang. We're right at 11:02. I just want to say again, thank you all. I presented at the Capitol yesterday with Dr. Romero for an early childhood well-being caucus. And I just, you know, I really tried to emphasize how critical the work that you all have been doing since March, for those of you who have remained open throughout this pandemic, has been nothing short of awesome. So I just thank you for continuing to do this work, put yourselves on the front lines to care for children and families during a very difficult time. If you need something, let us know. We may not be able to provide something for everyone or for everything, but we do care, and we do want to make sure that you all remain strong and continue to serve children and families. So best of luck, stay safe, and we will let you know about our next call, but it probably will be about 3 weeks before the next one, and then we'll be back on track. Thank you, Frances Black. Yes, Carol Mosley. She did such a great job representing early childhood. If you didn't get to see it, but Frances runs the Darnell School here in Little Rock, and she just did a super job representing you all yesterday at the Capitol, and I can't say enough good things about Miss Frances. So take care of yourself, be safe, and keep those babies safe. Appreciate you all, and see you next time.